Protesters yelling shame and disrupting a hearing in the Israeli Supreme Court on Wednesday about the future of the controversial Sde Teiman military facility, where Palestinian detainees have been held throughout the war in Gaza and where repeated allegations of soldiers abusing detainees have made headlines both in and outside Israel.
The matter is a matter of the laws of war. Even in times of war, it is strictly forbidden according to international law and according to Israeli law to abuse detainees. The laws of war are intended for exactly this, to prevent a situation in which enemy subjects who are in custody are harmed.
The detention facility was opened shortly after the war in Gaza began, meant to hold Hamas detainees until they could be transferred to prisons. According to the state prosecutor, the facility is of key importance.
This place must continue to operate. We are at war. It is a vital security interest of the State of Israel.
On Tuesday night, Israeli Channel 12 aired security footage from the facility showing a group of reserve soldiers picking out one detainee out of many lying on the ground, taking him to a corner, gathering around him, and covering themselves with shields from the camera. The reporter, Guy Peleg, says that shortly after the incident, the detainee is taken, bleeding, to hospital with injuries described as complex, and that the medical conclusion is unequivocal, injuries caused by the insertion of an object. Late last month, 9 Israeli soldiers were arrested for the alleged rape of a Palestinian detainee at Sde Teiman, causing protests and riots from Israeli nationalists, with backing from Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who all say that at a time of war, the country must gather around and protect the soldiers. At one point, up to 700 people were held at Sde Teiman, but hundreds of Palestinian detainees have been transferred out of the facility in the last months.
Today, 28 prisoners are held in Sde Teiman. The law's instructions and regulations established by the Minister of Defense determine a series of conditions that must be met in the detention facility. The question at the center of this meeting is whether these instructions are implemented now in the Sde Teiman detention facility.
The Israeli military says it is investigating the case, which has caused uproar in Israeli society. Earlier this week, a report released by Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem says dozens of Palestinians held in Israeli prisons and detention centers since the war began describe incidents of violence, torture, starvation, and sexual abuse.
The jail was very, very tough, as you can see in my situation. It is an unfair detention, and there is killing, and they torture us with metal sticks. We were subject to all kinds of torture.
The report stated that the majority of the 55 prisoners interviewed for the report were released without an indictment.